This is the story when I almost got lost in the wood while hunting.
Stupid, crazy idea. I decided to go out into the woods and do like a 3-mile trip into the woods.
September 16, 2017, we're out on a moose hunt with my buddy Jimmy and Pal. I already got my moose, so we're out hunting for Jimmy's moose to hopefully find him a bull. It's almost the ending of the season of that year. September 25th is when they close the moose season. We had one vehicle. We were all riding in Jimmy's side-by-side. So it was Jimmy, me, and Pal. And basically the area that we hunt in, there's like a big old U. So the trail goes like this, like a U. And from this section to that other U section, point A to point B, it's a 3-mile stretch. 3 miles, roughly a 3-mile stretch of wood, forest. And what I did was I wanted to explore that forest. So basically what I had them do is I had them drop me off at one side, and then I told them to pick me up on the other side, and eventually they'll see me because I'll be on the trail. So what they did was they dropped me off around roughly 4:30, almost 4:30 p.m. I think 4 p.m. They dropped me off, and I started making my way into the woods and hopefully make it to the other side while they go cruising the area. That was the plan. I had a rifle, a 7 mag rifle, 7mm rifle, a bottle of water, binoculars, a little small pocket knife, and that was pretty much it. I didn't have anything else. No lighter, no GPS, nothing like that. So basically I started making my way through the forest. I first went through a small forest and then went to a big old marsh, big flat open marsh, crossed through that marsh, and then I started going through the big forest that basically hopefully connects to the other side of the area. So throughout my whole journey, I was putting markers. I had those temporary flag markers. You guys seen those before, where people mark their properties or mark where they've been. So I had one row of that, only one row, and I think that row was no more than 250 yards. I was tying marker as I was making my way out there, about every 15 feet or every 10 feet, just enough where when I turn back, I can see where my last marker was. So I was doing that, and once I passed that big marsh, and I got into the bigger forest, it was such a weird forest where my plan was just to basically go. When I first started, my plan was just basically go straight. If I keep on going straight, I'll hit the other side of the trail, which is roughly 3 miles out. So when I was going through the forest, it didn't go like that, because when you're in the forest, there's like, debris, tree stumps. So I started going, and I didn't realize it, but I was like zigzagging. So I was zigzagging back and forth. I wasn't zigzagging back and forth, but I was zigzagging left to right. And that right there basically threw off my whole brain, because I didn't know if I was still heading in the right direction. But I was zigzagging, and I was tying my marks here and there. I was pretty confident. I have full confidence that I will make it out. I'm probably about 40 minutes into the hike, and then all of a sudden, I had like a stomach ache, so I had to go take a number 2. I had to take a number 2, like really bad. Like I didn't have nothing, so I didn't have no toilet paper. I didn't want to use my socks, so what I did was I took a number 2. I took off my shirt, and I had a tank top. So I basically used my tank top to wipe my butt off. So what I did is I found like a nice tree, took a dump right next to the tree, and then I wiped my poop off, or I cleaned myself off, and then I actually left my tank top. I left my tank top out there. So I left my tank top, and I was burning up. Like I was heating up. I was hot. So I was cooling off for a bit. And then I started heading. I kept my journey going, and I was keeping my eye on the time, because I knew that around 6:30 to 7 p.m. it was gonna get dark. That's when it was gonna get dark on that day, because I always focus when it gets dark. When you're out moose hunting, you gotta know when the sun rises and when the sun set, because that's kind of how you hunt. You follow the moose pattern. I'm still hiking out, going through the forest, and I start to realize that, man, I don't know how long it's gonna be until I reach my destination, and I don't know how long it's gonna take me. So I made like a smart decision to turn back. So I looked at my time, and I decided, hey, let's just turn back, because right now I'm taking a 50-50 chance whether I'll make it out on time or I can go back and at least know my way back out and make it out in time. So I started to head back. I started to follow my trail back, and I started to follow my flags. So I was following my flags, and like I said, I wasn't going in the right pattern. I was zigzagging back and forth. So I was following my flags, and there was like the first time I basically circled myself. I came and circled myself, and then I'm like, oh snap, I'm not going the right way. I'm not sure which one is the right way out now, because now since I circle my way out, I'm not sure if this is the way back or this is the way forward to my destination, which is the exit out. So I started to like calm down. I wasn't really fully nervous yet, and then I finally thought that I found my way out. So I started tracking myself out. I was still following my flags, and then all of a sudden, first I did pass the area where I took a dump, because I passed the area where I took a dump, and I was keep on going. I was hiking for about 10 minutes, and then roughly about 10 minutes, I ended up back exactly where I took a dump, because my tank top was still there. And that was when I started to panic. I was freaking out. I was like, oh snap, I'm lost, because now I can't find my way back out, because like I said, the way I was walking, I was zigzagging, I think, and basically all my flags there, they weren't in the right corresponding way, where if I follow each one back, it will take me back to my entrance. So that right there, when I started to kind of worry, I was like, oh snap. And it was, I think, almost 5:30 around that time, and that's when I was like, oh shoot, something's going on, man. Like, I gotta find myself out, because honestly, I was running out of water. I was running low on water. I had like maybe about half a water bottle, just one of the small regular plastic bottle water. I tried to basically recall where and when and which flag would take me back to the entrance. And then for about 15 minutes of hiking, I hear another hunter, and this hunter, he was way far out, but I can hear him, because it was during the evening where he was cow calling, or he was cow calling or bull calling, whatever you want to do it. But I can hear him calling, and I knew it wasn't a real cow or a real moose, because I knew it was a human. So he was basically cow calling whatever he was doing, and I basically tried to cow call back, and I was actually like yelling back, like, hello, like, where you at? And that person really actually saved my way out, because he basically was calling, he was still cow calling, grunting and stuff like that, and I basically just stood there for a few minutes just listening to him, and basically I had to act like a moose, where I had to go find him, because that's basically how I did it, because he was able to give me a pinpoint where he was at, and I started headed toward his direction. And at this time, I wasn't following any of my flags. I was going a whole opposite direction. I wasn't tracking my old flag. So I basically just started headed towards the way I was hearing him call. And finally, once I was going out there, I finally arrived back to the main big marsh. And at that point, I was so relieved, because I finally once I get to that marsh, I knew exactly where I was, because I was pretty much way off from where I first entered the marsh. So basically, where I entered the marsh into the big forest, I was roughly about maybe 200 yards out of that first entrance. So I basically enter that marsh area, and then I basically see the opposite side where I first entered. When I first entered that first marsh, that's where the other hunter was, and he was actually calling from that section, and that's where I took my binoculars, I looked out, and I saw him. So I finally arrived to the marsh. I finally start headed toward his way, and once I headed toward his way, I found my flags, and I was able to get out. So I got out. I was so relieved, pretty happy, and I was able to get. When I was in that forest, I did have some signal. I did have some signal where I was texting Jimmy, hey, I need you guys to come track me out. Come track me. If you follow the flags, you guys will find me eventually. So I was texting Jimmy and stuff like that. But eventually, they were still out hunting. They were looking for the bull moose and stuff like that. So they weren't looking at all. So basically, I found myself out like after 3 hours, almost 3 hours of hiking, and I started headed back. I basically started to follow the trail back to the other side, and eventually I met Jimmy and Pal, and we started headed back towards where I went to the marsh. We followed the trail. You know, this is the trail. This is where they dropped me off. I started going back there. I met Jimmy then, and then we started headed back out, riding the Jimmy. And at that time, it was already late. It was like 8 p.m. Kind of dark, but it wasn't fully dark yet. And that's when we saw a bull moose, which was a spike. And that's where Jimmy took the shot, but he either missed or he either injured it. But we knew it hit the moose, so it was way too dark to go even track it. So basically, we did found a blood trail. We marked it, and the next morning we went out to go track the bull moose. And eventually, after like 2 hours of tracking, we ended up with nothing. Even though there's like a good amount of blood trail, we basically injured the moose or something like that. But even after like two to 3 hours of tracking, we had no luck finding that moose, and we basically called it a day and came back home and called it quits for that trip. It was pretty fun. It was a good experience. Just don't ever go into the woods by yourself, because I had confidence that I knew the area pretty good. Like, I knew that, hey, this is a small forest, I just need to go straight and I'll get to the other side. But eventually it didn't end up like that, because once you start circling and you lose your orientation, you know, your orientation of where you came from, where you're gonna go out, you can get lost easily. So basically, don't go out there, don't go in the woods by yourself unless you have like a GPS. Honestly, you gotta have like a GPS, or you gotta have some kind of survival kits. Like, I would have been more confident sleeping out there if I had like a lighter, maybe like a backpack with snacks and food, because I would have been like, oh, you know, whatever, I can just sleep for the night, and then I can you know, start tracking my way back out in the morning and stuff like that. But I had none of that, so I was freaking out, and it was getting cold now. It was September. It was getting kind of chilly. So those are some tips, or that's one of the experience that I want to share with you guys. If you guys are ever out hunting, just make sure you know your area 100%, or have a GPS, because even me, I thought I knew the area, but I guess I got lost in my own area. And I'm gonna show you guys a video that I recorded when I got out of the forest, or when I got out of the forest and I reached that main marsh area where I was able to find myself back out. Enjoy.
Hey guys, stupid, crazy idea. I decided to go out into the woods and do like a 3-mile trip into the woods to get to the other side of our camp, and I almost got lost. I'm freaking out right now. It's 6:44. It gets dark in 1 hour, but thankfully I found my way out to this little marsh. But this big marsh is a good it's a good landmark of where to head back to where I started. But holy shit, I was not called the helicopters to come pick me up in the woods, because I set trail marks, you know, those little trespassing marks, trail markers. I set trail markers, and I was following them, but then I keep going in circles. So I was freaking out. I only have 1 bottle of water. You guys see these trail marks right here? See? These trail marks? These are mine. I was heading to that forest, trying to go through that forest to cut through the forest and get back to our camp. Stupid idea. Stupid idea. Don't ever do that unless you have a GPS, which I don't have a GPS. I only have waters, binoculars, a big ass rifle, no knife, no lighters. When I was in the woods, I heard some people cow calling, moose calling, and I was yelling, help, hello, help me, stuff like that. And I guess I wasn't a moose, so they didn't care. We still got about a 30-minute hike, so I want to do this quick before it gets dark, because once it gets dark, I won't be able to find my marker, and I could definitely ruin the trip, because we still got one more day. We got to find Jimmy's bull for him. So thank you. Lesson learned. Don't go hiking alone like me, because I'm freaking NuttyNu. I always do nutty, stupid shit. But fuck, it's an experience. It's an experience.